If you're anything like me, then you're still struggling with the idea of switching from Goodreads to the StoryGraph. You've read all the articles, you've watched all the videos, you understand just how bad Goodreads and Amazon is, but the switch is not coming easy. Which is why I've decided to spend this whole year updating both platforms in tandem, and by the end of the year we'll see if I switch from Goodreads to the StoryGraph or not. This is the mid-year point, so I'm going to delve into my thoughts that I've had so far on the StoryGraph and Goodreads, and I'm going to explore why, for some of us, it is so dang hard to give up Goodreads forever. First, let's do a cute little recap of our journey so far. I started the year by refreshing my abandoned the StoryGraph account and getting it in sync with my Goodreads one. Basically, both accounts have the same books, tags, reviews, and settings for the most part. I then spent some time looking at the StoryGraph's features I totally missed in the years I abandoned ship. And finally, I poked and prodded both platforms to see if they were quite as trustworthy as we think. Now, almost 6 months later, I've been updating both platforms, testing new features, and I have some thoughts to share. Let's address something real basic first. Goodreads has released no new features in the past 6 months. 0. In fact, they've not even done any bug fixes. In comparison, the StoryGraph have released 2 huge updates, a few smaller ones, and countless bug fixes. That's pretty significant. I'd have thought that to keep up with the StoryGraph's rise in popularity, Goodreads would at least do 1 or 2 small updates or even bug fixes, but nope, that's not the case at all. I'll get into why I think that is soon, but for now, let's talk about my experience in the last few months. Being the organized and practical person that I am, I wanted to make sure that this year-long test was as fair and accurate as possible, which means I couldn't just post reviews and update things on my TBR. I wanted to test out some features too. Starting with the StoryGraph's read-along feature. For this year's Mythology March, I wanted to set up a read-along of the book Girl Goddess Queen by B. Fitzgerald. Usually I do read-alongs with my Discord community, but to test this feature, we did one within the StoryGraph this time instead. Setting up the read-along was easy, keeping things spoiler-free with chapter threads was great. I even enjoyed the idea that people I didn't know could join just by seeing the read-along displayed on the platform. However, I didn't enjoy the experience quite as much as I would have liked, and I think it's worth bearing in mind here that I am comparing the experience of setting up a read-along on the StoryGraph in comparison to setting up one on my Discord server. So here are my thoughts. Getting people to join the read-along was easy. Encouraging them to engage is not. In fact, I had very little interaction within the chapter threads at all, and you can kind of see this play out in other people's read-alongs too. It could have been that the people who were joining in the read-along just didn't feel confident to share their thoughts because they didn't know me or they didn't know other people in the read-along. It could have been me, the fact that I maybe wasn't a good enough host because I wasn't asking questions or engaging people in the comments. But in terms of the StoryGraph, I think it would have been a great addition to be able to have a way to get notified when people were interacting within the read-along itself. You'll get a notification if somebody replies to your comments, but somebody posting in the read-along in general, there's nothing at all. I found it easy to forget I was in a read-along and I was hosting the thing. An easy way for read-along hosts to message people within the read-along would be a really great addition. For joining read-alongs in general that I wasn't hosting, I found it quite hard to find ones that I would be interested in. At the time, there wasn't much in the way of filtering, but now you can filter by books on your TBR, which is so much better. One of the other features I tried on the StoryGraph was buddy reads. Buddy reads are the StoryGraph highlight for me. They're easy to use, straightforward, and nicely spoiler-free. I enjoyed the fact that hiding book spoilers required very little effort, and that adding comments is pretty enjoyable. The only thing that I think is missing is the ability to upload images. I know that in my Discord community, it's very easy to upload, say, a picture of a page and highlight a specific part of that page that you're specifically talking about. You can't really do that in something like the StoryGraph. In terms of the rest of my experience, I find both platforms pretty similar for the general features that you get on these platforms. They have a lot in common in that sense. Sure, the StoryGraph does a better job of reviews due to the content warnings and half stars you can add to reviews. But other than that, the experience is pretty similar. I've also not had much issue throughout the 6 months of updating both platforms in tandem. After all, once you've written a review, it's kind of just a copy and paste. The one thing the StoryGraph will always have on Goodreads though are the stats. I don't know about you, but it's satisfying to look at those stats at the end of each month, and now you can even have a cute little graphic of all of the books you've read. Download that and share it on social media. I don't see Goodreads adding this feature, not now or in the future. It would just be too much effort for them, which brings me on to, with Goodreads releasing and improving nothing on their platform and the StoryGraph improving and bringing out new features almost constantly, why is it so hard to leave Goodreads for good? I find this a personal struggle. The StoryGraph has better features, better reviewing system, it has a better ethos and ethics and methodology. It keeps the readers in the loop, the people that are using the platform. You can see that in the future and even now it's surpassing Goodreads in everything that actually matters. So why exactly is it so hard to let go? The only thing that I can put my finger on is the sunk cost fallacy. This is when a person is reluctant to abandon a strategy or course of action because they have invested heavily in it, even when it is clear that the abandonment would be more beneficial. I've been on Goodreads since 2014. That's 10 years of being on the platform. That kind of time sink is kind of hard to undo in your brain, especially when you've invested 10 years into it. I don't know about you, but I find something like that hard to quit. It's what the sunk cost fallacy is exactly all about. And the frustrating thing is that if I were choosing a platform to be on right now and I hadn't been on either of them, I would choose the StoryGraph over Goodreads and I wouldn't even think twice. But having been on Goodreads for so long, it makes this decision a lot harder. Which brings me on to the reason why I don't think Goodreads is ever going to update its platform, because it doesn't need to. Goodreads is the biggest book review platform out there, no matter how much the StoryGraph is growing. And with all those reviews and users comes a lot of very useful and profitable data. Goodreads is owned by Amazon, and Amazon likes to know what people read and why they read it. When it comes to books, following trends is easy when you own the platform that has all the data, and then selling those trends is then easy. They have it made. Users create lists, rate books, add books to shelves, and give them everything they need to use that data via Amazon to sell the most profitable books in the smartest way possible. Without much competition, they have no incentive to really do anything about the platform. They don't need to put in any effort whatsoever. So with all that in mind, it makes me think that maybe it's just a case of working past the sunk cost fallacy and ditching Goodreads for good. But there's still 6 months left of my experiment, so that could all change. And if you want to see the result of that, click that subscribe button and you'll find out in 6 months. For now, let me know how you feel about the StoryGraph and Goodreads, whether you've made the switch or whether you're struggling like me. And I'll see you next time for another video.